God's Word Express.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. So today we are stripping away the whole magic wand idea and looking at the mechanics of the impossible.
We're talking about miracles.
Exactly, miracles, but not in the way you usually hear about them, not as these, random magic tricks, but as strategic, almost calculated interventions.
Right. And the source material for this is fascinating. It's based on a sermon, Unleashing Miracles Part 3, by a Dr. Kevin from New Wine International Church.
And what's wild is how analytical it is.
It is. It's a completely different framework. Usually the conversation around miracles is purely, emotional or theological. This treats it more like a business strategy.
For sure. I'm looking at the notes, and we have marine biology, supply and demand economics, and something the source calls divine gastronomy.
It's a lot to unpack.
So to start us off, what's the mission here? What's the core argument this source is making right from the beginning?
The core argument is that miracles are intentional tools. They are not a light show. They are designed, very specifically, to disrupt a person's life and change their direction.
So it's about turning a crowd into followers.
Precisely. To turn what the Greek text calls an oklos, a mob, into committed disciples.
Okay, let's start with that crowd, the Akos. The setting is really important here. We're at the Sea of Galilee.
Right, or Lake Gennesaret, Sea of Tiberias. It has a few names, but physically it's a unique place. It's the lowest freshwater lake on Earth.
Wow.
Yeah, about 215 meters below sea level.
Yeah.
It's basically a giant bowl surrounded by hills, which means the acoustics are great for teaching, but the shoreline is tight.
And the source says Jesus was basically being mobbed on this shoreline.
Mobbed is the perfect word. The Greek is oklos. It doesn't mean a polite gathering. It implies a huge, unruly group. And the text says they were epikaimai on him.
Epikaimai, that sounds intense.
It means pressing upon or lying upon. They are physically crushing him. It's a dangerous situation.
And the source uses this modern analogy that I just thought was brilliant. He compared this ancient mob to people in Thailand queuing up for Little C milk buns.
It's such a great comparison because it totally reframes why they're there.
Right. I mean, people wait for hours in those lines.
Yeah.
And the speaker's point was they're not waiting because they're nice people.
Yeah.
They're waiting because they perceive value. They want the real stuff.
Exactly. It's the economy of scarcity. The oklos isn't there for a lecture. They're desperate for something that works. Healing, power, whatever. And that crushing demand forces Jesus to pivot. He needs a stage.
And that's where Simon Peter comes in.
Yeah.
This is our first big event, the great catch of fish, which the source calls a business miracle.
And it starts with a business transaction, which is a detail I think most of us just read right over.
Jesus doesn't just, magically give him a boatload of fish.
No, not at all. He asks for something first. He sees two boats. The fishermen are washing their nets. They're exhausted. They're done for the day. And Jesus asks to borrow Peter's boat.
As a floating pulpit, basically.
Right, to get some distance from the mob so he can actually teach.
So before Peter gets the miracle, he has to give up his primary business asset.
That's it. The source calls it a prerequisite of partnership. God asks to use what you have, your car, your skills, before he blesses the business itself.
Okay, so the sermon happens. Then Jesus turns back to Peter. And this is where the real tension builds. Because Peter's had a terrible night.
He's exhausted. He's worked the graveyard shift and caught absolutely nothing. Zero. And Jesus, a carpenter, looks at this professional sea captain and gives him a command.
Launch out into the deep and let down your nets.
And on the surface, that sounds like, just generic advice. Don't give up.
Yeah, try again.
Oh!
But the source digs into the biology, and this was the huge aha moment for me. It wasn't just advice. It was objectively bad advice.
It was terrible advice, scientifically speaking. To get why, you have to know the specific fish they were after.
Okay.
The source identifies the fish as tilapia, specifically blue tilapia. You might know it as St. Peter's fish.
I've heard of that. So what's the deal with blue tilapia behavior?
Well, for starters, they're vegetarians. They eat algae and vegetation.
Which grows where?
In the shallow water.
The source notes they live and breed in water about 1 meter deep. That's why the local fishermen always worked at night, near the shore. That's where the food is, so that's where the fish are.
So when Jesus says go into the deep, he's telling Peter to go exactly where the fish aren't.
He is telling him to fish in a biological desert. From Peter's professional perspective, this command defies everything he knows. It's foolish. It's like telling a tech CEO to go all in on typewriters.
But he does it. And the source highlights the specific word Peter uses to address Jesus at this point. He calls him epistates.
Yes, and this is such a crucial detail. Epistates translates to master, but more in the sense of a commander or a boss.
So not lord yet.
Not yet. It's what you'd call your supervisor.
Yeah.
It's Peter basically saying, okay, boss, you're in charge of the boat. I think this is a stupid idea, but because you said so, I'll do it.
It's skeptical compliance.
Exactly. It's blind faith, but against his better judgment. And then the nets hit the water.
And all biological hell breaks loose. I mean, the scale of what happens next is just off the charts. It's an economic anomaly. The Greek text says a great multitude of fish. The nets literally start to tear.
They were actually ripping.
The word used is diaresso. They are physically ripping apart from the weight. They have to call the other boat over to help them haul it all in.
And the source did the math on this, which I love.
He did. A standard Galilean fishing boat back then was about 10 meters long. It could hold a load of maybe 5 to 6 tons.
5 to 6 tons. That's like a commercial truck.
Per boat. And the text says both boats were so full they were starting to sink.
So you're looking at, what, 10 to 12 tons of fish?
Potentially, yeah.
That's a lottery win. For a first-century fisherman, that's generational wealth showing up in one morning.
It's a massive liquidity event, to use a business term. But this is where the source makes its most important point.
The money wasn't the point.
The money wasn't the point at all. If it were me, I'd be planning my retirement.
Me too. But Peter's reaction is completely different.
Right. He doesn't start high-fiving everyone. He doesn't calculate the market price. He falls down. Precipito. He collapses at Jesus' knees.
Because he realizes this wasn't about fishing.
Exactly. The source argues this was a targeted strike at Peter's professional pride. Jesus walked into Peter's world, broke all the rules of his industry, and produced an impossible result. He showed total dominion over Peter's area of expertise.
And that's what changes Peter's language.
Immediately, he switches from epistates boss to Kyrios, Lord, owner of my life. The source says this is the actual moment of conversion. The miracle was the tool to get him there.
And the proof is right at the end of the story. Luke 5:1. They forsook all and followed him.
The word is aphemi. To leave behind, to disregard. They left 10 tons of fish, a fortune probably rotting on the shore. They walked away from the biggest payday of their lives.
Because they found something more valuable. Wow.
And that arc from business deal to skeptical obedience to total surrender sets up the second miracle perfectly.
The feeding of the 5,000.
Or, as the source points out, probably closer to 40,000 people.
Right. 5,000 men. But if you add women and children, you're looking at a crowd the size of a modern football stadium.
It's a logistical nightmare. And Jesus turns to Philip and asks, "Where shall we buy bread for these people?" The source says this question reveals the divine gastronomy.
Meaning, he's not just interested in their souls.
He's interested in their well-being. He cares about their blood sugar.
And the source connects this story back to the Old Testament with the Israelites getting quail in the wilderness. And I have to say, the ornithology lesson here was amazing. I always pictured magic birds just appearing.
It's much more grounded. These are migratory birds, likely coming from the Mediterranean.
And they're not like majestic eagles.
No, not at all. The source describes them as fat, breast-heavy birds. They get exhausted on long flights, and they fly incredibly low, about 2 cubits off the ground.
So like waist height.
About waist height, and they're running on empty. So when the wind shifts them towards the camp, they basically just drop. You don't need a weapon. You can just grab them by hand.
So the miracle is the timing and the orchestration of a natural event.
Exactly. But again, the source leans into the quality of the provision, the gastronomy part.
The taste test.
Yes. He describes the meat as a delicacy, a mix between chicken and duck, tender, fatty, really good.
And why does that detail matter so much?
Because it argues against this idea of a survival mode faith. God didn't just give them dry crackers to keep them alive, he gave them quail. He gave Peter a record catch. The argument is that divine provision includes satisfaction. It includes good taste.
So God actually cares if you enjoy your lunch.
It's a holistic view. God isn't a minimalist who just does the bare minimum.
I like that. It makes the whole thing feel more personal. But there's always a but. The source brings us all back to one key point. You have tons of fish, delicious quail. What's the actual end goal of all this?
Repentance.
That's the heavy word.
It's the anchor of the whole talk. The speaker is crystal clear. Miracles are not entertainment for the oculos to get a free meal. The whole point of the abundance is to cause a shift in your allegiance.
To turn the crowd into disciples.
Exactly. If you eat the bread, but you don't follow the one who provided it,
Yeah.
you've missed the entire point. You're just a consumer.
This brings us to the final thought, which was surprisingly dark but really effective. the Titanic.
Yeah, he went there. But it fits the theme of professional versus divine perfectly.
He quotes Psalm 127. If God is not building the house, the laborers labor in vain.
And the Titanic is the ultimate example of laboring in vain. You've got the best engineering, the expert crew, and the owner who reportedly said something like, God himself could not sink this ship.
A quote that did not age well.
It's the ultimate expression of professional confidence. We have the expertise, we don't need a partner, and we all know how that ended.
Contrast that with Peter.
Peter, in the boat, has zero confidence in the plan. He thinks it's stupid. But he invites the divine partner on board. He relies on what the source calls foolish obedience.
And the result is nets breaking with abundance.
That's the choice the source leaves you with. Great human effort without God, the Titanic, is a disaster. Foolish obedience with God breaks the system.
It really forces you to, audit your own life. Where are we being the captain of the Titanic?
Right. Where are we saying, I know the market, I know the biology, I don't need to launch into the deep?
It suggests that our own logic might be the lid on our potential. If Peter had stayed logical, he'd have stayed empty-handed.
It's a paradox. To get the result you actually want, you might have to do something your professional brain is screaming is ridiculous.
Well, that is definitely something to chew on. We've gone from Thai milk buns to sinking ships to the migration patterns of quail.
It's been quite a journey.
For me, the real takeaway is that detail about the shallow water. It just changes the entire context of obedience.
It makes the act of obedience the main character of the story, not the fish.
Exactly. Well, that's it for this deep dive into unleashing miracles. We hope it gave you something to think about.
There's always a deeper layer to look for.
Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.